Hi, I'm Shane,
And I'm Alex.
and this is the RPM podcast.
So, what is this podcast, Shane? Why are we going to put so much time and effort and resources into jabbering on about tyre compounds and sporting regulations and things like that?
It's a really good question, and I think it's hard to summarize in like a sentence or two. But the ballpark is, at the end of every race weekend, we usually sit down for about 2 hours and talk about this stuff anyway. Like whether we're playing the F1 game or just chatting on TeamSpeak, we have a weekly race debrief, and we've been doing that for years. And I think that's why we're doing it, because we already do it in reality. So why don't we produce something? Why don't we talk about something which we love talking about and actually produce a podcast? That's why I want to do it.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a ritual for us to sit down and give our opinions and everything and see where we stand. But also for me, I think that you are the other person that I know that
Absolutely.
really is into Formula One the same amount that I am.
Yep.
And I think a lot of Formula One fans feel like there's something it's almost like Formula One fans are an endangered species and you're sort of trying to find the last of them. Like, where is everybody?
There's only
F1's
one
getting
or
more
two
popular,
people,
but-
isn't there? Like out
Yeah.
of my friendship group, honestly, for the last, I'm 26, so for the last 15 years I've been watching Formula One. There's always been only one or two people, and that first person has always been my dad. And I don't think that counts because that's family. But the second person I knew who watched Formula One and loved it as much as I do was you. And like you said, it's such a rare experience to try and find someone, unless you're in like a social media forum or purposely searching for a group of people online. But just day to day, you're the only other person I know who loves Formula One as much as I do. And like you said, it just feels like that's such a rare occurrence. So getting two people together to talk about something they love, it's just going to be great.
Well, sport's growing in popularity, it seems, at the moment. So hopefully that will change in time and we want to be part of that. So that brings us to where we are now, which is why we're putting together this podcast, aside from our passion for the sport itself, which is that we want to become part of the wider network, I suppose. We already love so much of the other content that's out there. I'll list some of the stuff that I like. You can give me your own, because I know we probably delve into different treasure troves of Formula One information.
It definitely varies, doesn't it? But yeah, you go ahead.
So I started watching a lot of things like Chain Bear and The Race, and there's like Josh Revel, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. And then there's the Alpha Max Nova 1 videos on Reddit that everyone got really excited by and became a bit of a long-running meme. And aside from the BBC Sport and all the sort of usual publications, I delved into a lot of YouTube and a lot of Reddit and that sort of thing. And I'd quite like to be part of it in a way that gives me an opportunity to add some content, add something useful, something quality. And who better person to do that with you than with you, Shane?
That's pretty much the same for me. Like a lot of my time I spend on YouTube. So WTF1 really shouts out for the F1 content I go to. It's quite lighthearted. It isn't too serious. There's a lot of fan interaction, which I really like. Also Reddit. I'm quite new to Reddit. I've only been on Reddit for 2 years now. Considering it's been out for a lot longer than that, I use it so much. So at the end of every race, I dive into Reddit, look at Formula One or Formula memes, and just get into those conversations with people and just share those funny bits or find out bits of information which aren't highlighted in the race. For example, like radio messages, which can be cut and then published on YouTube by the official Formula One page, but then you get to hear the full length one if you can search for it on Reddit, which I find really interesting. So it's that kind of content I absolutely love. Just finding like bespoke bits of information online and then talking to you about it. I mean, yeah, it's just great. How many times do we text each other with a random link to a Twitter feed or a Reddit feed, and we're like, yes, this is great, or oh, I didn't see that in the race. Well, no, it wasn't. It's great. I can't wait.
It's one of the strong suits of the sport as well, is that it's so transparent, and that's improved a lot over time, especially the post-Bernie era, where it's opened up to social media and the like. So that's something that's really got going for it in the modern era. But what's your earliest memory of Formula One?
My earliest memory of Formula One. Now, this is before I started watching it religiously. I was on holiday. I was in Turkey, and I was with my dad at the bar. So I must have been about 14. and it was pouring down a rain. So it wasn't like we were in the pool or at the beach. It was just me and my dad sat at the bar. I had a glass of Coke in my hand, and a Formula One race was on the TV, and it was in Turkish. But all I remember seeing was Michael Schumacher drive round and like all these other cars. And I thought, this is really cool, you know. And I spoke to my dad about it, and my dad wasn't a massive fan, but he made the effort when we got back to the UK. I'm not sure what it broadcasted on back then. It certainly wasn't just Sky Sports F1. We couldn't afford that. It was on terrestrial TV.
The dark days of ITV.
Oh, I know.
With advert breaks in the middle of the race and then coming back to a replay and trying to pretend like it had literally just happened.
Yeah, trying to get as excited as it was 5 minutes ago while you're watching PG Tips as an advert or something like that. But yeah, I remember coming back to the UK and my dad making a Sunday of it. It was like, oh, it's Sunday. We're going to watch the Formula One together. And from then on, since I moved out, or since that moment, I've watched it, and then I've taken it really seriously in the last probably 8 to 10 years. So I'm quite new in the grand scheme of things to Formula One. I know you, Alex, have a lot more knowledge and a lot more like background into the sport. So I'm quite fresh. So what about yourself?
Well, I'm pretty similar in many ways. It was my parents used to watch it. I used to watch the race. I think my first memory of Formula One is Jacques Villeneuve winning the World Championship at Jerez in '97. And obviously Michael Schumacher's controversial move that only served to knock himself out of the race.
Yep.
I certainly been watching. I watched a lot when I was a child, and then there was a bit of a dip in the middle when I was in like sixth form. I was in like college and university. And then I really came back to it properly after university and have been really going since then. So I suppose that's like 2011, 2012, I started watching it like a lot again. I went from checking the results and occasionally seeing races to absolutely devouring everything I could find pretty much.
Yeah, that's the same for me. And ironically now I've moved to a job where I can't secure every single Sunday. So I've gone 10 years where I've been able to watch every single one. And only recently now I have to record it and then run home. Well, not run home. I cycle home, make sure I don't look on Twitter or anything, and then digest the race as if it was live.
Yeah, it's and that kind of ties into something else that I think we wanted to talk about for this this first podcast, this intro, is that we are really trying to push ourselves to make this podcast and the rest of what we do as Race Per Minute as good as possible. We want the quality to be as high as it can be, but we're kind of still learning, and we want you to be able to get to know us as well as we go through it. So maybe talk a little bit more about what you do, Shane. Who are you? And what do you do?
Who am I and what do I do? So I have just started firefighting. My background is actually in IT, and I decided a year ago I didn't want to work in IT anymore. And I wanted to change. So I decided to become a firefighter, and I was very fortunate to pass all the recruitment and the fitness tests and the introduction stuff. And I've been on station now for 4 months. And it is one of the best jobs in the world. I mean, you'll probably disagree because when you talk about what you do, but I find it amazing. It's active, keeps me healthy. And just, I just love it. People ask me all the time what I love about it. And I think it's just the variation of work. Each day is different. You don't know what you're going into. You don't know who you're going to see. You don't know who you're going to meet. And it's absolutely fantastic. And I love that I can come home from a day at station and sit on my computer and play games and find that relaxing. Whereas when I was working in IT, I'd be working all day looking at a screen and then coming home and playing my games on the same computer. So I love the separation.
Well, I certainly don't disagree that it's one of the best jobs in the world that you're doing. I think it's you're doing a public service as much as anything. We need the emergency services, so I think that's pretty incredible.
Thanks, mate.
But my job is it makes my job seem not quite as important in the grand scheme of things.
So, I envy your job, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Go ahead.
So I'm a musician. I write music. I produce music. I teach music. I do everything music related and audio related professionally. And that's all I've ever done, really. I've never really considered doing anything else. I don't think my parents were too happy about that when I was going through school and college. They were kept trying to push me on to, why don't you do English, or why don't you become an accountant or something? And I think they wanted me to make money, basically, but I thought I would rather be a musician.
And I think that's fantastic, that you've taken something you've loved and you've pushed it into your career. There's so many people who, have to put that on the sideline or have to like do something else to make ends meet. But you've managed to harvest your passion and turn it into a career, which I just think is absolutely amazing. Which is
eventually I have anyway. I mean,
a lot of hard work.
It's taken me some time. I mean, I've had my ups and downs, and I've worked other jobs at the same time as being in bands and trying to get work writing music for theatre and video games and all that sort of stuff that I've done in the past, and now I'm doing more of that sort of thing professionally, and then I've got private students as well. So yeah, that's what I do when I'm not watching Formula One and talking about Formula One with you.
Or playing the Formula One game.
Or playing F1 2020.
Yeah.
I was doing some of the F2 racing the other night, so.
I've just been practicing for our next race because I'm fed up of you beating me.
Where are we racing next on our career? We have a little league together, don't we?
It's Canada. Canada is next.
Oh, yeah.
So not many turns and a lot of straight, so I'm hoping I don't get up too bad.
Yeah, power circuit.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's a bit about us and a bit about the podcast. So what can people expect from the podcast going forward then? Not every podcast is going to be just us chatting about ourselves. What are we going to be doing next?
So I think the main bulk of our podcast will be post-race discussions or post-race weekend discussions. So we'll be analysing what's happened on practice, qualifying, and race. We'll be talking about it, our favourite bits, what we liked, what we didn't like, who we thought did really well, who we didn't think did as well. And we'll just be having a conversation about it and getting you guys involved as well.
Yeah, we want to try and get people involved in quite maybe a little sort of direct and unique way that we're quite happy for people to send us comments and questions and their own opinions on the races. But we'd also quite like it if people recorded their comments or questions and sent them to us so that we can play them and listen to them on the show, both when it's being recorded and in the final product that you're seeing now, just to get you involved and get you on the show in your own way.
I think, what really stands out for us and what we really want to do here on the podcast is get the community involved. This whole brand is shaped around community engagement, and that's what we want to stick to throughout this whole adventure. So getting you guys to record your questions and we can play it back on the podcast is, it's going to be fantastic. We'll have, we have a Discord server set up and, we have all these things which are available just moving forward. We've built it around community engagement.
Yeah. So to kick us off, we'll ask you, what is your earliest memory of Formula One? We shared ours earlier. And if you're interested in sending us your own early memories, then you can email us at info@raceperminute.com. You can either send it via the text itself, or you can send an audio recording. You can just use your phone. It doesn't have to be super high quality. Just record it on your phone or something, and we'll play it and respond to it on the show.
Great. I think that's exactly where we want to go, and that's exactly what we'll be doing. It's going to be great.
So the plan now is to record our post-race discussion after Belgium.
Yep, it's going to be really interesting because they are removing qualifying mode out of the cars, or you're not allowed to use qualifying mode if it's not available in the race, which could mix some things up. But in the same sense,
that's where we currently are.
Yeah, so it'd be good.
Yeah, I suppose if you're listening to this podcast sometime in the future, then this will all be old hat now, and you'll know exactly what's going to happen. But it gives you a bit of context as where we are.
Yep, absolutely.
How early did Mercedes and Hamilton win the championships?
Oh man, it's going to be so it's going to be so early on. It's going to be interesting because we don't know how many races are this year as well. So it's not going to be a slam dunk until the calendar's finally confirmed. So that might make it interesting. In the same sense, it could be in 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, it is technically all still to play for.
Yeah, at this present time of recording, and it's only August, so we'll see. We'll see going forward.
All right, so this is the Race Per Minute podcast going forward then. Looking forward to our first post-race discussion, as well as other news items, and that will almost certainly do shorter episodes similar to this length on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't forget that you can get in touch at any time at info@raceperminute.com. Or there's our socials as well, Shane.
Yes, they are. They're currently on the screen. So both on Instagram and Twitter, it's @RacePerMinute. And if you want to follow Alex and I, there's a little indent above our pictures now if you're watching on YouTube. If not, they'll be in the comments.
And if you're just listening to the podcast edition, then you can follow me at Cottrell Music on Twitter, and Shane is Shane57F1.
That's correct.
Thanks very much for joining us then, and we will see you at the next episode.
See you soon. Take care now.